City residents experience hotter temperatures than surrounding suburban and rural areas. This exposure, especially during heat waves, can contribute to significant health issues up to and including death. But some cities are expanding open green spaces and using plants to cover buildings with vegetation to decrease what is called the urban heat island effect. In this week's video, we will examine what is causing the urban heat island effect. How are residents worldwide using modern cooling techniques? And is urban greening a cleaner, sustainable way to cool cities? We will consider these questions and more as we explore this week's Ethical Dilemma in Science. Can urban greening cool heat islands without gentrification? The factors contributing to this urban heat island effect can be summarized in the words from Joni Mitchell's 1970 song, Big Yellow Taxi. In developed areas, such as cities, construction materials absorb heat during the day and slowly radiate the heat at night. The difference in the heating ability of different materials can be examined using a temperature infrared gun, basically a thermometer that takes temperature readings without touching the object. The temperatures show what many of us have experienced in the summer. Black asphalt is extremely hot, the concrete is a little less hot, and the grass is somewhat more comfortable. Building materials, such as asphalt and concrete surfaces, are able to absorb heat well above the air temperature. So areas where natural surfaces, such as grass, are being replaced by building materials can contribute to this phenomena of urban heat islands. A heat island, sometimes referred to as an urban heat island, occurs when built-up areas contribute to increasingly higher temperatures, as illustrated by this image from the World Meteorological Organization. Summer weather forecasts further show the difference in both daytime and nighttime temperatures, which are much higher in urban areas such as New York City and noticeably cooler in suburban and rural areas. The modern, technological-based solution to increase temperatures is the use of air conditioning. However, individual air conditioners are somewhat inefficient and can actually add to the increased outdoor temperatures. A study looking at Phoenix, Arizona showed that extensive air conditioner use could cause the nighttime temperature to be 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer. An air conditioner acts as a heat pump that uses refrigerant gases to transfer the warm temperatures inside of a structure to the outside of a building. However, air conditioning requires a lot of energy. It's estimated that air conditioning uses 10% of global electricity currently, and there are some projections that show that air conditioners could use 45% of electricity during peak usage by 2050. Nature provides an effective cooling mechanism in the form of evaporative cooling. For humans, this acts in the form of sweat. As water in the sweat evaporates from the surface of our skin, it pulls heat energy away and cools the skin and the body. Perhaps surprisingly, this effect isn't limited to animals. Plants release water from their leaves in a process called transpiration. As water evaporates from the leaves, it provides the same type of cooling effect as sweat evaporating from our skin. Some cities are now using this natural form of air conditioning to counter the effect of building materials absorbing and releasing heat in order to cool our urban heat islands. One example of the use of plants in cooling buildings is the placement of plants on green roofs. This model replaces the normal roof surfaces that can absorb and emit heat with a layer of soil, which can contribute to insulating the roof, and plants through the process of transpiration, which have an effect of cooling the building. Another example is to cover buildings with vegetation that may shade the building, reduce the heat energy that is absorbed by the construction materials, and cools the surface through transpiration. Applying this green cooling strategy to New York City, we can see that Central Park West has extensive tree coverage along the streets, as well as being located close to the natural vegetation found within the 843 acres of Central Park, resulting in localized cooling effects. This portion of the city is much, much cooler than other regions of the city, which have very little tree coverage, such as East Harlem Street. Looking closer to home, in Philadelphia, we can examine two images of satellite data analyzed by Ken Stife, the director of the Master of Urban Spatial Analytics at the University of Pennsylvania. The green image on the left shows vegetation cover, trees and grass, while the yellow-orange image on the right shows city temperatures. Areas with greater green coverage, as illustrated by darker green, are consistently cooler, as illustrated by the lighter yellow colors. A further example of green urban environments can be seen in the Grand Junction Plaza in Westfield, Indiana. The city renovated a concrete-lined creek that was subject to flooding. They renovated and produced a vibrant plant-filled park. They replaced the impervious concrete with a porous surface that can reduce the flooding risks. They are seeing cooler temperatures, and this park now serves as a community location with multiple activities for the enjoyment of nearby residents. While these green cooling initiatives have great potential as a sustainable and natural alternative to energy-intensive air conditioning, development of these types of parks, or even increased tree planting, can disrupt neighborhoods. A study published in 2022 showed that urban greening is becoming an essential part of sustainable, climate-responsive cities. However, these efforts can contribute to gentrification in over half of the cities studied. American Forests, a charitable nonprofit organization that looked at racial and socioeconomic gaps in tree cover, showed that majority neighborhoods of color have 33% less canopy, while low-income neighborhoods have on average 41% less canopy. A study focused on Portland, Oregon, showed that for every percentage point increase in neighborhood tree cover corresponded to an increase in home prices of about $880. Real estate speculation and the increase in property values makes it difficult for existing residents to afford to remain in place, and this can lead to community displacement. So this brings us to our ethical dilemma in science for this week. Can urban greening cool heat islands without gentrification? Is the use of environmentally sustainable cooling through urban greening justifiable if it results in the displacement of low-income communities? How can city planners implement green initiatives while protecting and preserving vulnerable communities? And finally, should urban planners and policymakers be responsible for ensuring that the benefits and burdens of urban greening are equitably distributed among diverse socioeconomic groups? Thank you for viewing this week's Ethical Dilemma in Science. Please see the description below for additional information and references. You can leave a comment below with your thoughts on this topic or suggestions for future topics. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe for more discussions on the ethics and the impact of science on society. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.